Hey Nikhil, how are you?
Good, good. How are you, Will?
I'm good. I'm good. Congratulations on your new role.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited. So tell me real quick. You ended up landing. What's your role and company that you're at?
Sure. So I landed a role at Expedia as a product manager for CRM.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
And you're based in that Austin area. So
I'm based in Austin. Yes,
good.
Austin. Yep.
Wonderful. Well, before we jump
Uh-huh.
into kind of this whole journey, I'd love to just get a quick snapshot of your career. Kind of tell me a little bit about your background and your trip into product management.
Sure, absolutely. So before product, right, I spent several years in IT. I started as an engineer and gradually moving up closer to the business, into roles like business process manager, program manager, people manager as in IT. So a lot of my career has been in IT for a very long time. And then early on, I was going through breadths without being deeply intentional about my career, right? What is the long-term path? So at some point, I realized that I wanted to be in the driver's seat, right? And that's when I wanted to be intentional about my career. I wanted to know the why behind the decisions rather than just being into the execution mode, right? So when I connected my technical background with my business exposure and interest in customer problems, and given a lot of my background handling stakeholders, the obvious path, what I found, like also being closer to technology and engineering, because I didn't want to move away from that. I thought the best path for me was product management, and that's when I, about 6 to 7 years ago, I made a deliberate decision to pivot into intentionally being into shaping my career into product management ever since.
I
So
love
that's
it.
been my journey, and that's when I decided I needed to be intentional about product management. And so as I said, I have a lot of experience in that space, acting as a product manager, but not as a formal product manager. But I think about 6 years, I would say 6 to 7 years ago is when I became intentional about it.
That's great. That's great. When you decided to look for your next role
Mhm.
prior to maybe coming across our program, what was your job search looking like? How was it going? And how were you kind of spending your time in prepping for that with that before you had joined the program?
So not great. In one word, if I had to say, it was all over. The plans that I had wasn't working, right? Because I was looking what everybody else does, just going on the LinkedIn, applying for the roles that I would be a fit for, and just randomly applying jobs after jobs after jobs. And then I was also getting contacted by recruiter, but for all the wrong roles, right? Not the kind of roles that I wanted. So it would be some sort of a contracting job. And so I always wondered if there is something wrong in my search, right? But I didn't know what differently I should do. So I think that's where my struggle was. So every day it was just getting up, and not even every day, but I know every weekend I would sit down, I would just look for the roles that were a match. And then I was just trying for everything, not being targeted about my search. I was like, oh, maybe this role could also be a fit. Maybe, something which is looks like a product manager, but it's not exactly a product manager, could also be a fit, whether it be a product owner, product manager, program manager, project, anything. I was just that something that would match and that would help me get into product. That's what I was trying, right? And again, I wasn't very targeted about the companies as well. I was just all over whichever job came across. I'm like, let me just apply for that. So it was very chaotic. I thought I had planned, but really not, because again, in resume, right? I just looked online and I would just find someone and say, when something didn't work, I would say, hey, can you help me tailor my resume? But again, it was very generic. It was better than what it was before, but it was never meeting the needs, the requirements that needed for a proper product management search.
Yeah, I think the job search done sporadically, it gets sporadic results.
Mhm.
Sometimes something will hit, but oftentimes it doesn't. One of the questions that I'm always wonder for people who are in this journey, because I know I've felt this,
Mhm.
is what were some of the feelings that you were having while you were kind of wandering all over the place? How was your kind of mindset, your energy, your emotions, your family dynamics, whatever it might be, as you're in this sort of chaotic search?
First of all, when I started with a lot of enthusiasm, right? Thinking, okay, this is now I know what I want to do. For this long, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But when I started to search and when I wasn't getting any results, I was obviously pretty early on itself. I was very demotivated, and that imposter syndrome, that maybe I don't have the right experience, and this is not a fit for me. Maybe I should go back to what I was doing. So all those doubts crept in, right, as I was doing the search. And again, just endlessly applying, not getting anywhere, or just getting the role. So I thought maybe, again, it's the same feeling about, maybe is this the right path for me? Even though I want to do it, is this the wrong time to switch, or am I too late for this? Right? Kind of all those feelings of being demotivated, whether I'm making the right choice, whether should I go back, all those feelings were there as I was going through this journey.
Yeah, they're real and those feelings are exhausting. Like emotions
Very
take
exhausting.
energy,
Yes.
both good ones and bad ones. They all take
Mhm.
energy. As you were starting to explore options to get help in this process, and you came across the intentional job search program, what were some of your hesitations about joining the program?
So prior to intentional search, right, I was just looking all over. There were many other online options. I won't name them, but I took a couple of them, just like mock interviews, for example, right, to refine my stories. I would say they helped me a bit, but it wasn't getting me to the next level, right? Like I would just be better in my interviews, but nowhere close to where I would close on an offer, right? So I would, yeah, get some interviews maybe through hiring manager round, but that's pretty much it. But when it came to like the real deal about loop interviews or the advanced stages of the interview, I just wasn't getting anywhere with that. And I think that's what my biggest struggle was. And then I had started following. I came across Shobit's videos on LinkedIn. Um, but it took me a while, right? It took me a long time because I had not had great experience spending money and sporadically spending money. And then there's so much online, right? I'm like, who do you trust and how do you trust? So I think that was my biggest challenge. That's why even though I started watching all the videos and started learning about the program, it took me a good more than a year and a half before I said, okay, now I need to do something, right? So that's how long it took me. Now I wish I should have done it sooner, but given the chaos that is there, right? So much options out there, so didn't know how to whether I should take the leap or not.
So what got you to the point where you finally decided I've got to do this?
What made me switch is, like I said, there were many other programs I was looking, but no one had the clarity that sort of in general in the intentional job search, mainly Shobit and everybody else that I was looking into. Right, I kept looking through testimonials, through all the people's looking for their LinkedIn. Are they real people, right? Actually, or there's just some made up stuff. So that when I looked and I kept coming back to it, right? And that's where at some point I felt this is the real deal because nobody was even close in offering such a comprehensive program from start to end. But what I didn't know is this real or is this just advertising, right? But at least nobody had such a comprehensive view of what the search should look like and very targeted to product management, not just generic everything. We do this and we do that. Very specific to targeted to product management type of roles I'm looking for. And the testimonials was a big part that brought me in. And then I had reached at a point I'm like, now I need to take that risk, right? Even if it is not, and let me see what is the worst, right? Yes, and without taking some risk, you don't know, right? And this is the best program that I found in my year and a half plus of research that I've thought this is the best fit. And if I need to do something, if I need to take my career somewhere, I need to just see what it is.
I love that. I love that. So what now let's fast forward to you've just joined the
Mhm.
program and then you've done some of the initial work. What
Mhm.
was your first moment where you kind of like this value thing I was really missing before? What
Mhm.
is this first aha moment for you in your job search journey?
The first aha moment, tell me about yourself. I think that was the thing. I think I'd never thought of it that way, right? I'm like, I was usually like, okay, start with your resume, right? Does everybody, oh, I did this and I did that. And I never thought of it. And it was a very different way of saying, how do you tell about yourself, right? But the big aha moment I would say is the stories, because what I thought were good stories, right? And I thought, oh, I have all these star formatted stories. And I'm like, this is not even close to what it should be, right? There's a big gap in what I was thinking. And that's what was missing from all the other things that I did before. Yes, I have stories, do have the structure, I do have the structure, but what it means to be impactful, right? The experience is there, but how do you present it? I think that I would say is the big aha. The first time when I did that, and I had to practice how much of a struggle it is, right? Even when you have the experience, but just to precisely say it in that format and that and trying to remember all of that, it's a lot of work that I did not realize that you couldn't just write it down and go in an interview and hope that you will crack it. So I think that was the big aha moment is those the amount of it takes to just work on one stories and what makes the difference in a
Yeah.
good story versus something that will get you through through an interview. So
Yeah, I think the getting the right narrative and then
Mhm.
doing the hard work of what you said of doing the practice to be able to present it
Yes,
well. I think people underestimate the amount of effort it can
yes,
take to do that.
absolutely.
But then the value of it pays off, right? As
Absolutely.
you saw, just not in just how you feel about it, but in the results. So speaking of some of those results, walk me through, you landed at Expedia. Walk
Mhm.
me through that process of what was that interview cycle like? How was IPM part of that program for you, or the part of that process for you? Give us some details about how that went.
Absolutely. So I think first, I one thing I would say, and I waited along, right? Because I thought everything needed to be perfect. And all my stories needed to be perfect. All my So I started the when I started, I think Team A was good. I did the first PKM level one, right? So that was good. So I had some basic structure going on, and then I was hesitating a bit to start applying for it, right? But then I think that's when one of the coaches who were helping me, like, no, you should, now you have the basic, you start applying, don't wait it to be for it to be perfect, because you don't know until you have the interview. So that was good. So I think that's when I started applying. So it took me a while. I think I waited along because of my full-time job and everything. But once I started applying, one thing that I saw is initially that LinkedIn and the resume that had been worked on and the narrative that was put together, I started getting more inbound calls than I had before. But I also started, reaching out as soon as I applied for a job. The whole, the process that is laid out, that I need to reach out to someone, the second, like a second or third connection, not necessarily the first connection, right? So I started reaching out to them randomly, doing that, refining the whole LinkedIn, completely revamping it, my resume. I thought because of that, a lot of activity, it generated a lot of activity for me in LinkedIn. I don't know if exactly that's what happened, but I could clearly see from before to after, I started getting inbound calls as well, as opposed, and I of course reached out to people for references. I followed all of that process, but it just so happened that through this, as soon as I started applying and through all these activities, I started getting inbound call, and that's when one of these calls that I got pretty early on. I wasn't even ready for that. A call came from the recruiter, and then it was a perfect match. So I think that was one of the things that worked out well, is what I was looking for and the experience that I had, and that's how I proceeded to that. So I had recruiter round, then hiring manager round. So hiring manager round was about 45 minutes. And so that went really well. I think it was, they had already told me they had like 5 principles, and it would be the star format, pretty much similar to like the Amazon style interview. It was all the questions the way I had prepared, right? So my stories were perfectly aligned for that. I didn't have that many stories at that point. I think I had about four to five stories. When I went to the for the hiring manager, I actually only had 2 or 3 stories by then, so I didn't even have that. But those were enough to get me through the hiring manager round. And then I had followed by that was the loop round. The loop round went for a while because it was one person and they were in different time zones, and so I think it was over 2 to 3 weeks it took for me to get through 4 interviews after the hiring manager round with different, senior level people and a director level
Okay.
people. And then they were all star format, right? Behavioral
Yeah.
interviews. And then followed by that, I again had a last round with the hiring manager. So there was total 6 interviews, basically 3 rounds. So hiring manager round, first, second, the loop interview with 4 different interviewers, senior level, and then finally again with the closing round with the hiring manager again as
And
a
you
process.
feel like all of the story prep and practice and mock interviews that we did with you were appropriate and helpful for you to do well in those?
So this, like I said, this is the first time when I saw the impact those stories made. Because before, when I used to be in the interviews and I would just ramble on without having a structured format, I could see I was so confident going into the story, and I could see the reaction of the interviews. They knew, like, okay, I knew my stuff. I had made impact. What is the exact word I did without being verbose or just rambling on? I don't know what they felt, but just telling my story, I felt very confident. And that every round, of course, there's always some nervousness before you go into any round, but my confidence was really high, knowing after that initial first few successes, I think my confidence grew a lot. And just
I
knowing
think
that
that's
these
great.
stories work, this is when I saw it in action, right? Before then, yes, I had done some mock interviews and all the prep that needed for that. Sometimes even the mock interviews were tougher than the actual interviews, I would say.
I love that word of confidence and how it helped you. One of the things that we talk about a lot is getting your mindset right to approach the job search, right? And part of that is to feel like you're well prepared to bring your best self to the interviews. And it sounds like you did a great job with that.
And I
Um,
would say that was the biggest contribution too. Like I would say, in addition to all this, preparation is good, but being intentional about it, right? That manifesting that this is the opportunity, and that's the mindset that I went in. So more than any preparation, getting that from the program was the biggest deal. Initially, I didn't think, I'm like, okay, I don't know, this is just stuff that you hear about, but when I actually applied it, that really worked for me.
I hear that often, and it's one of those things that I try and make sure I pull out because I think outside, before you join the program, you'll hear, "Oh, there's some mindset work to do." And like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And
Mm.
then you hear over and over again people as they tell their success story and their journeys,
Mhm.
how they underestimated it, then they did it, and then they got the results that were just much
Yes,
bigger than they ever expected. And
absolutely.
yes, there's tactical things, but the
Mhm.
mindset work is really critical. So
Absolutely.
that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that as well for you. When you think about the IPM job search program that you've been a part of, if you had to put it in your own words for someone who might be in a similar situation to where you were before you joined the program and trying to figure out what is this program, how would you describe it to them?
I think I would say this is the most structured program that exists if you're looking for a product management, whether you have the experience or not, right? Even if you're starting out just as a product manager, even if you're at a senior level, every time you're trying to be intentional and want to go to the next level, I would say this is the most structured program that exists out there, right? And it is definitely a big ROI because there is no program that is going to give you unlimited amount of mock interviews and pure practice, the community, the motivation, the tools and tactics. So it's on at all levels, right? It's not just at the preparation and then you're on your own. It's that whole community. I would say if I have to layer it, it's like the structure, right? At the base that you need. Next thing you need that community, right? You need the help, right? Whether it's in terms of preparation and over unlimited, which is what is really needed, right? Without practice, there's nothing. You're not going anywhere, no matter what level you are at. So I think it gives you that. And then ultimately, like I said, the mindset work, right? That people underestimate, which I also did initially. So it's at all levels. It's like a complete program, and it's not just some tools and tips here and there, or some random mock session that will help you. It's like a complete structured program that is out there. And if you're very serious about your product management, and if you know that's what you want, and you want to wherever you are, now you want to get to the next level, this is the program to be in.
I love that. I love that. If you were to say, if there was a group of people out there that were like the absolute perfect fit for this from your experience, what
Mhm.
would their attributes be? What is this the perfect fit for?
Perfect
Someone
fit.
like in your journey or someone more senior, or what do you think is the absolute best time to join the program?
I think the absolute best time to join the program is if you have decided this is going to be your path. First is you need to be clear about what you want. Once you know that you want to be on the product management path, this is the time to join, right? That's the time to join. Right?
I love it. If there was anything that you could share with people that are watching this video now, maybe some of the questions or concerns you had when you were evaluating, whether if you could go back and tell yourself, cutting yourself out of maybe that year of wondering whether you should join or not, what would you say to someone who is trying to consider this right now?
Like I said, if you have decided that this is the product management, don't waste any time because there is really nothing out there which is this comprehensive. And sometimes, like I said, it could be confusing with so many things out there. And it's an investment, right? I would be frank, like it's a big investment. So sometimes people hesitate, but definitely, the ROI will be much bigger in terms of yes, short term, and anytime you have to make that investment if you want to get to the next level in your career, right? Whether it's monetary, whether it's the next level that you're looking for, job satisfaction, like this is the perfect program that exists out there, and this is some of the hesitations that I started with, and I wish I had done it sooner, right? Because I would be much ahead in my journey right now. So yeah, I say please, if you have decided this product management is the right path for you, or if you just already in it and you think you want to get to the next level and you're not getting there, and if you're struggling, then it's the right time to join this program.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Nikhil. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you
Congratulations
so
on your new
much.
job. And we really loved having you in the program. It was wonderful to work with you.
It was a life-changing experience for sure from a career perspective. So thank you for everything that you've done. All the coaches, they've been extremely supportive. At no point that I felt like I've made a bad decision. I never thought, once I was in the program, I knew this is exactly what I was looking for. And there's no way I would have got the job that I have now, or even in the future. I would say I wasted a lot of time before. And this is the right program to be in. It's just great. Everyone is just great in this program.
Oh, good. Well, the best time is early. The next best time is today, right? That's
Yes.
exactly it. So, well, congratulations.
Absolutely.
I can't
Thank you
wait to
again.
see what you do in your career. And thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.